आफ्नो स्टोरी सुरु गर्नुभन्दा अगाडि मेरो पनि एकदमै ठुलो रहर छ 6 प्याक लिएर आउनलाई। मैले त्यही भएर 6 प्याक कमिङ सुन भन्ने टी सर्ट अर्डर गरेको छु। फर्स्ट अफ अल है, म प्रशान्तजी र सम्पूर्ण स्टोरी यलर्स टिमलाई म धन्यवाद दिन चाहन्छु, मलाई यहाँ बोलाइदिनु भयो। एउटा सजेसन, मोटो मान्छेलाई प्लिज पछाडि नधकलिदिनु होला, बिचमा कहीँ एडजस्ट गरिदिनुहोस् है। ओके, द्याट वाज द जोक। ओके, अर्को कुरा, because of you I'm wearing my coat after 2 years है, त्यो पनि धन्यवाद एकदमै। Okay, now getting back to my story, right? मेरो story त्यति fancy छैन, but it still is very inspiring for myself. So it's just a normal evening in a middle class family, and as a part of family ritual, I was sitting in my dad's room, and to be more honest, I never studied for my class, and I was appearing for my final examinations of grade 12. And somehow my dad was happy if I sat in his room and studied that, oh, mero chorale padiracha, right? So the room was 15 by 15, light green color. And there were like 3 tube lights placed, and where there was no tube light, on the same wall in the bottom was placed a queen-size bed where my father laid down. And right opposite of the same wall where there was no tube light, there was a huge almari that covered the entire room and had a mirror in it. And right in front of my father's bed was few chairs placed where I was reading for my, I would not say reading, but I was just staring at the books. So my father asked me this question first. He says, Babu, ta asal ta hunchas, ramro manche ta banchas. I hastily said, yes, Dad, banchu. I didn't know anything to say. He again said, Babu, will you take care of your mother? I didn't know how to answer this question. I just shook my head. Let me tell you about my father. He was just 43 then, all right? He was not too old, but I don't know why he asked that question even. I was not bothered at that time. I'll tell you about my dad. My dad was he had this milky white skin, big eyes, pointed nose, Brahmins, obviously. And he was around 5'7", 5'8", thick mustache. And he was half bald. I'm getting there, but he was like half bald. And he grew his hair long enough from back to cover his forehead, and a new person could not say if he was bald. And he was one positive person, and I admired him the most in life. After he threw 2 questions, my mind started recollecting memories, and anyway, I needed one small excuse just to get deviated from my studies. I was still gazing at the book, but my mind was taking trips. So I thought maybe my father asked me this question because I was a very horrendous kid when I grew up. मेरो कमर त्यतिखेर कमरा जस्तो थिएन है, म दुब्लै थिएँ, and I was skinny, not skinny, but I was like fit and fine, and I was like hyperactive. And I used to live in hate, resentment, anger, bitterness. मेरो लाइफमा यति मात्रै चीज थियो. I don't know why. So I started thinking to myself, why did my father ask me this question at around 9 in the evening on a random day? He never would do that. So I went on my school days. Maybe I thought I've done so many things in my school days. I was called to principal's office plenty of times, sometimes fighting with my friends, sometimes arguing with teacher in unnecessary topic and not knowing where to stop. So many times absconding exams and failing sometimes. Whatever be the reason, I was at my principal's office, र मेरो बुवा र आमाको चाहिँ त्यहाँ हाजिरै गरे जस्तो थियो कि, लाइक महिनामा 15 दिन 10 दिन 12 दिन मेरो प्यारेन्ट्स देखे कि अब यसो केही प्रब्लम भयो भन्ने. So one time in my school, I decided to abscond my pre-sent up examination, and जबरजस्ती तानेर दिन लाएँ, and then I failed. Right? I was not a bad student. I realized अहिले कि मलाई exam anxiety थियो. But I failed that exam, so my principal calls my dad to his office. Now let me tell you about my principal. My principal was a walking villain. है, उहाँको बारेमा कुरा गर्दा कसरी थियो नि, Humpty Dumpty जस्तो face, गोलो. He was like bald, completely, and his head was as shiny as sun. He maintained that status year-round. Rectangle chasma, र left आँखा मुनि एउटा ठुलो कोठी mole. And to be more precise, he looked like Dr. Dang of Karma movie. कसैले हेरेको छ भने he looked exactly like that. अब कति डर लाग्दै थियो होला, you tell us. One time I told him, Dr. Dang, मलाई त लगेर डरो दियो हैन. So he calls my dad. My dad is in his office and he says, विजयजी, तपाईको छोराले एसएलसी पास गर्यो नि म भैरवाको सबभन्दा मिठो लड्डु लिएर आएर खुवाउँछु तपाईँ. He embarrassed my dad. My dad, I could see by his face that he was so embarrassed by me. He said, sir, please, मेरो छोरालाई एसएलसी सेन्ट अप दिन लगाउनुहोस्, please. He pleaded. And I was granted. Okay, लानुहोस् तर यसले पास गर्दैन, याद गर्नुहोस्. तपाईको छोरा नेता हुन्छ र त्यसको लागि पढाउन जरुरी छैन. I thought because of this reason, my dad asked me that question. But my mind was, हुन्छ नि लूप गरिरहेको थियो कि स्टोरिजहरू. So I went to this other story. There was this guy, एउटा साथी थियो हाम्रो कम्युनिटीमा, was not साथी, but he was just of our age. His name was Atit. Let me tell you about Atit. Atit was this skinny guy, skinniest guy I've ever seen. हिँड्दाखेरि पनि प्यान्ट समातेर हिँड्थ्यो, right? अनि his face, हाँस्दाखेरि मुखमा 5वटा चाउरी पर्थ्यो होला, right? He was so skinny. So, but he was not famous for being skinny, but he was famous for being a foul-mouthed guy. कसलाई गाली गरेन त्यसले, भर्खरी जन्मेको बच्चालाई गाली गरेन कि कुकुरलाई गरेन कि गाईलाई गरेन कि भैँसीलाई गरेन कि बुढो मान्छेलाई गरेन. So we were playing this cricket in our community, and he comes, he holds pant, and then he snatches bat out of my friend's hand and he pushes him on the ground and says, come on, you spoiled brat, send me the best bowler and I'll show you how to hit a six. I had it with this guy. Every time he's such a bully. And I was on his blind side. I come from his back. I swing my bat to his back like I was hitting a ball. He falls flat on the floor and we beat him up, like gang and beat him up. All right? त्यसले त्यत्रो मान्छेमा मेरो मात्रै गएर कम्प्लेन घरमा गर्दै. Right? So his mother was no different than Atit. Atitको 3 गुना थियो होला मुख छाड्नमा. So she comes to home and she says, either you apologize to my dad or I'm going to take this case to police. My dad apologized. I saw his face and I was like, man, I did something that I should have never done. के गरेँ मैले? I thought maybe for this reason my dad did. मेरो mind was even loopमा गइरहेको थियो. Then all of a sudden my mom, she was doing a regular chore. It was 9 o'clock in the evening and she shouted from kitchen and she said, बाबु 3टा ट्युब लाइट अन गरेर त के गरिरहेछ? जा आफ्नो कोठामा गएर पढ या सुत जे गर्ने त्यहाँ ड्याडलाई डिस्टर्ब नगर. My mom never shouted. To be honest, let me tell you about my mom. My mom is the eldest of the 7 daughters her parents decided to have in search of a guy. She has the biggest of the eyes amongst all sisters and hair thick and long that she can literally broom the floor. She's beautiful. But the other thing about my mom is she doesn't speak to unsani chichar, and if anybody speaks, she gets petrified. And ekdam अहिले पनि काम सिन्छ अनि she gets like the pressure high हुने काम हुन्छ के. So that was the first time I heard my mom scream so loudly. So I thought maybe she's annoyed working in the kitchen. So let's not make a fuss over here and let's go in the room. So I turned off the light and I go to my room. Those questions I was seeking answer and I went to sleep. Let me tell you this, my dad did not wake up next morning. He was suffering from cancer and it had been 4 years and he could not go any longer. That question haunted me so bad. I was like, there were so many turmoils in my family. So my mom got widowed at the age of 40. There was a sister who was just 2 years older than me. And all he was concerned about, मेरो छोराले केही गर्छ कि गर्दैन. सायद यही घरको breadwinner हो भन्ने कुरा थाहा भएर हो कि के हो, I don't know. But I always wanted to get answer to that question, and I had been thinking over and over and again and again and again and again. I couldn't stop my mind on why my dad asked me those 2 questions. Am I that bad? I had 2 choices. One, was think. Think which would create thoughts. Thoughts which could destroy my life. I could either go negative or positive. High chances I would go negative. त्यहाँ मलाई मेरो बुवाले मलाई यसो भन्नुभयो म नराम्रो म यो ऊ भनेर बसेको भए I probably would have gone wrong. I said, straighten your head. You can do good. You're not that. Your dad asked you because of you. Your dad asked you because you've not been a good son. All I wanted to do was to be good. मेरो ड्याडीको 1 वर्ष पनि पुरा भएको थिएन. I decided that I want to go to United States. I decided that if I stay back, probably I'd be sniffing drugs at some corner, or I'd just be hanging around with the guys who would not take me anywhere. कहीँ पनि पुग्दैन. Those two questions, मलाई सधैँ it kept on track. तैँले पढ्नुपर्छ, तैँले गर्नुपर्छ. You have to do this, you have to do that. And I always did it. That very question till the day, it drives me. I wake up at 4:30 in the morning and I don't go to sleep at 11. Those very questions is the reason why I have 4 startups today, which is doing really, really good. Besides that, I work at a school and I teach communication skills. Those 2 questions are for the reason that I am the president of Kathmandu Toastmasters Club at the very moment. Those 2 questions are for the reason that I always push myself. I always ask me, के म अहिले त्यो ठाउँमा पुगेको छु? Do I stop now? Do I go forward? Have I done it? Am I good enough? Am I good enough? I always keep pushing myself. And those 2 questions, till the day, makes me work without being lethargic from 4:30 a.m. in the morning till 11 in the evening. Thank you very much.